So not long after I was born, I grew this shock of strawberry blonde curls. Like there are baby photos of me, like a cartoon caricature.
Shirley Temple.
Yeah, only red. Was her hair red?
Yeah, I think Shirley Temple was red.
She lived in black and white. I have no idea.
No. Or am I thinking the other one?
The other one, not Shirley Temple.
the other one.
Michael Jackson.
No, there you go. Like strawberry blonde.
Oh, no, mine was redder, like it was virtually orange.
Oh, okay.
I got kind of hazel eyes, which is pretty standard for a redhead.
I really need some computer-generated imagery to blend kid Shirley Temple and
with me
right now. We could do that.
That'd be adorable. My cheeks would actually be even larger than hers. See, I got fairly standard redhead colour hazel eyes, although brown's a little more popular. Mm-hmm. Then for some reason as a toddler, I went blonde. It just it went straight hair and blonde.
Canberra sun.
Canberra's, sun. It was the surf culture in Canberra. Much later, my noggin hair became whatever this mousy brownie.
Yeah, you became generic white guy hair.
Whatever the fuck it is, a meh colour. So when I grew old enough to grow a beard, it was kind of ginger and auburn until recently when it turned into what my wife calls Arctic blonde.
Arctic blonde. Oh, so that's what grey is called these days?
For me, it's Arctic blonde.
Oh.
This isn't grey, man. It's a different kind of blonde.
Yeah, sure.
Super pale blonde. So clearly I've got a chunk of redhead genes in me.
Yeah, okay.
I've never sprouted a dark hair in my life. I've always been this at worst on top of my head. So, but I don't exactly look like a full up paid member of the card carrying ginger society. Like it just doesn't look that way.
Okay.
So I've never copped the flack that redheads have copped over the centuries. And to be clear, some of the flack they've copped in different countries and cultures, not great. Not great at all. Being disposed to grow flame-coloured locks isn't just a pathway to social ostracism and sunburn. It also comes with a raft of other features. Magic powers. And some of them are actually pretty good, and I'm hoping genetically, even though my hair isn't red anymore, I share them. So in this episode, we ask, what is it about redheads?
Welcome to The Wholesome Show.
The podcast where two academics knock off early, grab a couple of beers, and go down the rabbit hole.
I'm Will Grant.
And I'm not. I'm Rod Lamberts.
Good.
So this topic came up because I saw a Cosmo article called Why Do Redheads Fascinate Us?
And so they do?
Well, apparently, and look, my actual first reaction was duh, because redheads are babes. They're just hot. Love redheads.
My first reaction is I'm not sure that I'm fascinated yet. Like I'll
give it time.
Maybe.
So I quickly discovered, though, this is not everyone's first reaction. Like when I first pitched it to you, you were like, is this just going to be a list of you reading out terrible things about a subgroup of people? It's like, it's a fair question.
And is it?
No.
Okay.
I'm here to mess with you.
Okay, you're going to be...
I'm here to give you some positives, some science-based facts, and almost no sexism or racism.
Bigotry can be positive as well. Like saying your class of people are really good at washing up. Your class of people are really...
How did you know that was one of the characteristics?
Are really good at doing manual labor.
They have the
that might
gene
sound
for it.
positive, but it's not necessarily positive. I'm just saying...
Yeah, you're very good at carrying shit for me.
I'm just saying that...
Look how strong you are, people.
That also is a form of racism.
Redheads aren't a race.
Okay.
So it can't
That's
be
why
racist.
I said bigotry before.
This can't be racist. Also, a stalwart redhead of our production team, when they heard we were going to do this, maybe was a bit worried.
Yeah. Well,
I
remain worried.
Not to mention, ready to kick me really hard in my man parts. It could be I'll deserve it, but no, I won't. So redheads have been singled out around the globe for centuries, and sometimes it's been relatively benign and or just straight up funny, and other times not as much benign. Even in recent times, like Wikipedia pages on redheads talk about, a couple of kids beating another kid to death for having red hair. But we don't need to go into that. That's exceptional and horrible, and we don't know for sure it was only about red hair. These kids were obviously sociopaths. Anyway, so stereotypes. There are old ones, there are current ones. Some of the old ones, ancient Greeks or Romans, if you had red hair, you're a barbarian. That's just apparent.
A barbarian?
Barbarian.
Is that good or bad?
Yes.
Okay.
Depends. Do you identify as Greek or Roman, or would you like to? Then bad.
Okay. So the barbarian is not good in their books.
Yeah, it's not us.
But if they had seen Conan the Barbarian, they might have gone, "Oh, barbarian is cool."
Not a redhead. Not a redhead.
See, there you go.
Not a redhead.
It's like one of those not all ducks.
That movie's a lie. He's no barbarian. He's probably Greek. Ancient Egypt. According to some sources, redhead men were burnt as human sacrifices at the grave of Osiris.
Oh.
Then their ashes were scattered to the four winds because apparently it would help the harvest.
Oh.
because, red hair symbolizes golden wealth of the corn.
Okay. Could they keep it on their head and stay alive? No.
But then this is contested because others say, no. It wasn't to worship Osiris. It's actually because these were people who were sacrificing were worshippers of Typhon, Osiris's redheaded enemy.
But just to clarify, the redheaded guys still get burnt at the stake?
Fuck yeah, you're fucked either way.
So
you're a redhead.
So either it's to worship or it's to punish someone else.
Hide. If you're a redhead, then just hide. Medieval times. So we move forward. We're moving forward in our, let's call it singling out my brethren. To medieval Europeans, red hair probably meant Jewish.
Okay.
Which is surprising to me because of all the stereotypes, when someone says this person is Jewish, I don't think, but their hair's not red. Do you?
No, that is surprising to me. I would have thought they have other countries within Europe that they think of first.
Of course, in medieval times, if you had green eyes and red hair, you were either a witch, a werewolf, or a vampire. Vampires seem to be the most popular.
Why just go, you're something? Like, why not
no, you're a
stick
vampire.
with one?
I know, but again, the popular image of vampire to me, none of them are redheads. They're all like dark and swarthy types with very pale skin. Also, medieval times, redheads featured in recipes.
No.
Why not? Well, you've never had redhead stew?
I like redheads, but I couldn't eat a whole one.
Num. The older ones are tougher. Well, there's an alchemical recipes anyway. So
not a cake.
Yeah, not a cake. This is one a recipe where if you want to create gold from copper.
Yes, of course.
The obvious
Throw in one redhead.
No, blood of a redhead young man.
Oh, the blood of a redhead. That's better.
And the ashes of a basilisk.
Well, easy.
One is harder to get than the other. Although depending on where you're a redhead, it might be easy to find a basilisk, People were pretty grumpy with them back then.
But I like, though, if you're an alchemist, I reckon what you do.
And I am.
No matter what recipe you do, because they're not going to work, you add blood of basilisk.
Blood of something.
Basilisk at the end. And it's like, well, it's your fault you can't find the basilisk.
Yeah,
everything else is fine. The recipe is good. You just got it.
I didn't need unicorn horn. I'm only asking for a few hairs from the mane of a unicorn, you lazy fucks. If you really want to turn this into that, it's not my fault.
Yep.
I gave you the recipe. I agree. 19th century anthropologists, so moving out obviously of medieval times, basically if you had red hair, they would say, well, you're Vikings were probably your ancestors.
Okay.
And it's fair to say many of mine were. So again, I'm sort of...
There is some truth to that, isn't it?
Some truth in it. Okay, what about temperament? Now again, I got to admit, I was surprised. I've not really thought much about this at all.
You've not thought about the prejudice?
No, it just hadn't crossed my mind.
Okay.
Imagine that. A middle-aged white guy, highly educated in a safe little town. It's like we don't notice shit.
Oh my God.
I mean, you do. You don't. You notice. You spend all your time noticing. That's why you always have migraines. He does. When we're walking around people, he'll stop and he'll scream and he'll go, injustice!
I don't know why he says this.
Injustice!
I don't know why he says this.
And to which I reply, what?
Just get back to the story.
So redheaded men in Europe a century or two back, basically wimps.
Oh. I didn't think that was the stereotype.
Apparently. Look at you hair-coloured person, you must be a wuss. Giant man who'd pull my arms off. But of course, you'll be amazed. Redheaded women at the time, here's a taste. Here's a taste of redheaded women around 19th century and so forth. A very credible 19th century, scientifically robust study.
So not?
At all.
I think your coughing intends not.
By Cesare Lombroso and Guglielmo Ferraro.
Hang on, Cesare Lombroso? I wonder if we've talked about him before. Is he
Yeah.
a head measurer?
Given what he's about to say, almost definitely he would have been an
yeah.
anthropometrist.
Yeah.
So they concluded that red hair was associated with crimes of lust, rapishness, rapacity,
Yeah.
rapacious. Oh no, that means hungry, doesn't it?
Well, it can mean that and other.
Riparian, oh, that's rivers. They also concluded that 48% of criminal women were redheads.
Is that consistent with the number of redheads in the population?
Not even remotely.
Are you saying it's more?
Not even a hint close.
So a lot of our criminal women are the redheads.
Clearly,
So
that's what's associated, if not causing it.
if that is true, which I probably don't suspect so.
What? This is science.
But it could be maybe not just due to the redheads causing it, but maybe society.
Listen to you. What are you, a thinkster?
No, I've taken the day
Research?
off. I'm taking the afternoon
You've
off.
knocked off early. You lazy son of a bitch. Talking about temperament. So Ayurvedic practice, so in Indian medicinal practice, Ayurveda stuff. Redheads are seen as most likely to have a pitta temperament, Pitta. So not pita as in the bread, but
What does that mean?
so pitta. Their skin and hair will have a reddish tint, no surprise.
Well, that's by definition.
But they're saying Pitta look like this. We're saying redheads act like Pitta, so it goes in a circle. They are profuse sweaters who become overheated quickly and easily. Most often comfortable, therefore, in air-conditioned areas. And I got to say, again, calling back on my genetics, though not my hair, I'm a warm guy.
Yeah, but I don't think the warmness is the red hair. Like I think you.
How do you know?
You know.
Tell me about the science.
You know.
The Pitta temperament continues. They're prone to suffer from rashes, psoriasis, or rosacea. Mentally highly driven by the tendency to push themselves.
Okay.
Pitta dominant individuals often show an interest in law, fitness, science, business and finance, or in capitals, anything results driven and achievement oriented.
Hang on, is this Ayurveda?
Yeah.
Which is like a 2,000 or more year old tradition.
Yeah, but the website isn't 2,000 years
okay,
old.
because all of this sounds like
More recent?
a more recent framing. Like
It is.
Fitness, business, and law.
This is the Wholesome Show, bringing you into the 20th century, modernising Ayurvedic practice. They enjoy structuring their lives and have highly organised minds, which is me to a T. Often found in positions of leadership due to their natural domineering personalities.
I thought they were wimps. Other people think that.
And that's men in Europe.
Yeah, okay.
We aren't in Europe, and we're not only talking men here. Pittas have a tendency to become overly demanding, overly controlling, impatient with other individuals. Some are prone to physical and mental or adrenal burnout or fatigue because of their perfectionist characteristics. Again, that's how people describe me, perfectionist.
Spoiler.
Not ever.
No one ever.
Not even once. Not even once. So that's the Ayurvedic tradition. So on temperament, so European medicine, early stages, they say redheads, sanguine temperament.
Mm-hmm.
Sanguine. Of course, sanguine is, from the root sanguine, blood. Characteristics of a sanguine temperament, someone who is marked by eager hopefulness, confidently optimistic, allegedly.
Okay.
But they can also be energetic, outgoing, talkative, and creative.
These are all just a random bunch of everyone here.
They are not. This is the sanguine temperament.
Okay.
Random. You just don't respect pseudoscience at all, do you? They can also be impulsive, lack discipline, be prone to addictive behaviours. And there was a study that examined personality traits that are pretty similar to the four temperaments, sanguine, choleric, and bilious, and what's the other? I don't know.
You're telling the story.
Gregarious. I didn't write them down. This temperament is closely associated with high activity and briskness and high endurance and low emotional reactivity. So, yeah, it sounds to me like pretty much everything banging together here. Why are all these special beliefs about redheads? Why would people single out redheads? Like, who gives a shit?
Because you can.
Yeah, because you can. Well, obviously.
I mean, that's the human thing.
Is that the thing?
We can single people out. We'll do it.
So a bit of science. So red hair is caused by a mutation of the melanocortin-1 receptor, which is, of course, known as the MC1R. Exactly what you were saying.
That was my second guess.
Just when speaking
I
on
was
the
just
microphone.
confused between the two of them.
People with red hair have 2 copies of this particular variant of that gene.
Yeah.
Both parents must be carriers of that gene to be able to
have the
produce
key
red
and the
hair.
lock.
You need 2, exactly.
Yeah,
You need the hole and the
yeah.
pole, as they say in my favourite novels.
In your favourite genetics textbooks.
And so there's a 25% chance, even if these 2 people love each other very much and do the close hug, they won't have red hair themselves, but their offspring totes will.
Oh, so you still can. So you can still generate red.
Without being one.
Yeah, okay.
But also this thing people often don't realise, red hair can occur, or redhead genes can occur in any ethnic group. You don't have to be a European. So there are a few actors you can see who are clearly of African-American heritage, but they are pale white skin, pretty much red-haired, very pale-eyed, but they have features that reveal them to be African-American as well. So it can be anywhere. It can be anywhere amongst any group.
Okay.
So you're asking how common it is. Not that.
Yeah.
Roughly, maybe, around the world, 2% or less of all people.
Okay.
The most common, in which country do you think is the most common for redheads?
Ireland.
They're second.
Oh, well, I just thought I was being knowledgeable there.
You're close. Come on.
Japan.
Yep.
Antarctica.
Yes. Scotland, 13% of Scottish, and Ireland, 10%. So technically, shitloads more than the global average. Also, the suggestion is it's much more common in European countries. So 2 to 6% is more common in Europe than in your Japans and your Chinas, etc. And the suggestion is it may have evolved more there because cloudier skies. I know.
There's some cloudy bits of Japan, I think.
Not as regularly.
Okay.
And we'll get to why that matters in a moment. But although there are people who are saying, therefore, climate change, if there's less clouds,
what?
we could breed out redheads.
What?
But there are other people saying that's a load of shit, mate.
That is a load of shit.
Yeah.
That is not how genetics works anymore.
Anymore. because we fixed it.
Yes, because we live indoors. Natural selection pressures have changed between 10,000 years ago and now.
Do you live indoors?
So
You seem like an outdoorsy.
I'm not saying we fixed. I'm just saying that the pressures may be different.
We may have affected our own evolution.
Yes.
But look, it's pretty reasonable to suggest part of the reason, kind of like what you said, we're fascinated by redheads, or at least into abusing them or loving them because they're unusual.
Oh, you are.
They're unusual. Well, aren't you yet?
No, look, I'm interested.
What if I give you some pros? Then you'll become interested.
Yeah.
You ready? There are pros. So redheaded women respond better to opiates.
Hang on, is this actual science now?
This is actual science.
Or an actual science?
Actual science, just for fun. Fuck it. Let's go sciencey. So redheaded women, they respond better to opiates than men and non-redheaded women. So they're the winners.
Okay.
You give them a little bit of opium, they get really loaded. I did.
Well, like when did they go, you know what we really need to find out?
We're not talking heroin. We mean like in medical scenarios.
Yeah, even then, who is like, okay, we really need to find out.
Look at redhead. Let's see how they're different. Give them drugs.
But that you can find differences all over the place if you go looking for them. Doesn't mean
that's science. Gingers make more vitamin D than other types, so they need less time in the sun to get their vitamin D, which is nice. And this is part of that cloudy evolution theory.
Yeah.
There was less sun exposure, therefore.
So it's a way of catching the sun faster.
Yeah, you catch it
with
more
your flaming hair.
with your solar panel skin and hair.
Yeah, basically. That's what it is. Human solar panels.
Exactly. And what it means is they're less at risk for obviously vitamin D deficiency, but also therefore less at risk for diabetes, rickets, and arthritis.
Oh, wow.
And rickets has always terrified me. I've always worried that I'll suddenly get rickets.
It sounds like a fencing disease.
Like for people with swords or people who build barriers?
Yeah, like barriers. Like I think it's a rickety thing. That's what I always think with rickets. It's like
he's got rickets. He can't make a fence.
I don't know.
The fences collapse.
I don't know what rickets is. I don't know what rickets is.
It's bow-leggedness and other.
Yeah, there you go. Can't make a fence.
Because bow-legged people.
No, you can't make a fence.
They can't do it. Redheads are apparently, I like this one, super efficient with regard to adrenaline. Apparently they produce more of it and they access it faster than us.
That's why the whole, the
temperamentalness.
Temperament, yeah.
Look at you with your adrenal uptake faster than me. Stop stabbing me with the office supplies. Redheads, I don't know if I quite buy this. They don't go grey. They say they fade to white via rose gold. This is cosmopolitan. Look at me fading to white via rose gold.
Arctic muff? What is it?
Arctic muff. Yep.
I think that was what it was called.
Look at my Arctic muff.
Fade to white. Come on. White is grey. Like in the spectrum of
How fucking dare you, sir? This is Cosmopolitan magazine, not all of it. Also, this is an interesting one. British Journal of Cancer, 2013. Redhead men may be less likely to develop prostate cancer.
Oh.
But they were saying in 20,000 men, long-term health study, 1% of redheads prostate cancer, 40% of men with light brown hair or darker. That's a big difference.
Okay.
Of course, there are probably only 2 redheads in the group out of 20,000, so who knows. Cons.
Prejudice?
I'm talking like biological ones
Biological
first.
cons. Okay.
Oh, sorry to say first. There's one source that said, redheads are perceived as being funnier. And I'm like, really? But it's okay because a professor of the history of comedy at the University of Buffalo said so.
Did he do like the genetic analysis or did he just
Absolutely
see a
not.
lot of funny redheads?
Absolutely not. The argument seems to be we first see it in circus clowns who wore red wigs because they had to be seen from the back of the room. And therefore, I assume there's been some association.
Or,
made.
There was a lot of prejudice and perhaps the kid with the red hair in school thought,
it was a fucking clown.
Well, I'll deal with this prejudice by being a clown.
That's how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
Cons, more likely to suffer from Tourette's.
Really?
So you thought I was just a sweary pants.
You don't have Tourette's.
More prone to Parkinson's disease, at least according to mouse studies, which is a bummer, to do with dopamine. The amount of dopamine that's in specific parts of the brain, et cetera, so that's a problem. Redheaded women more likely to get endometriosis, which is a bummer, to say the least. And according to Cosmo magazine, this is a great quote, it's a ball ache to dye red hair.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair enough.
If you try and dye red hair, your balls ache.
Yeah, no, I think what they're saying is it's tough.
It doesn't hold pigment in the same way.
It's the thicker of the strands.
It is.
It's not so absorbent.
It may be thinner, but it is thicker, so to speak. More sparse, but thicker. Pros and cons. So more resistant. Redheads more resistant to local anesthetics like lidocaine. Resistant to an anesthetic doesn't sound great. They apparently need more general anesthetic on the operating table, in some cases more than 20% more than non-reds.
I thought they were good at taking up opiates.
Women, particular opiates, but not. I don't know if general anesthetics are opiates.
I'm just calling just a little bit of bullshit on some of this.
Science.
Yeah, okay, keep going.
All science. Smell. Do you want to guess?
Is this either that they're stinkier or that they're good at detecting it?
I want you to guess.
It's both of those. That's the problem. What do you want me to say? They smell delightful. You all smell the...
Thank you. That's what I was waiting for. Positive spin. So 1866, Dr. Augustine Galopin.
not science.
Yeah. He wrote a book called La Parfum de la Femme, The Stink of the Lady,
Well,
I think is the direct translation. In it, he says that he has a theory that women smell differently based on their hair colour, and he notes that redheaded women smell like ambergris. Whale chunder.
so not science.
What, whale chunder's not science? But there is science behind that, potentially. Yeah. So redheads have a acidic or more acidic skin mantle, so the sebaceous layer over the skin, than others. So it may be
I just
when you spray perfume on them,
oh my God,
it smells a little different.
Why have people done all of this science? I really
because they want to vindicate the reds.
Why do people keep doing this? Like
because they're fascinated.
Like
the original article.
I don't understand.
Fascinated.
I don't understand why people would go.
Would you say you're fascinated now?
I want to go with.
I don't want to be, but I feel a little bit amused.
I just feel like it's not a real area of science. Prove me wrong.
I did not argue that it was. I'm going to get to one at the end, which you're going to love. Pain. You want to guess?
They've got a super high pain threshold because, you know.
So they're more sensitive to certain kinds of pain, particularly
Jesus Christ.
thermal pain. So heat to temperature pain.
Why is there so much research on this?
Why wouldn't there be?
Oh my God.
Because people worry about it. But they might be better, it seems, at resisting pain when it's carried by electric currents. So they make better spies. You know, if you're going to torture someone, they'll be like, you can shock me all you want. I am a redhead.
I don't think that's what you want in a spy.
To resist pain? Yeah, you do.
I think that is lower down on the criteria.
What's higher?
Blending in.
Don't get caught.
Getting,
blending in, that could be a problem.
Not
look
being
at you,
noticed.
one of the less than 2%.
Like
we see you in Beijing and we're thinking you might not be from
I think
around
if a spy is getting to the torture point, they have failed in their major job.
Or they've done such an excellent job at infiltration that they've gotten deeper than expected.
Jesus Christ.
Apparently there's some research that also suggests redheads are better at handling sharp or stabbing pain. How would you like to be part of that experiment?
How did science come to this?
Experiments.
Let's test stabbing pain. I'll need a dozen redheads and a dozen other.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stab all you fuckers.
When did science need this?
Whoever cries harder, wuss, on the wuss scale. Interestingly, popular culture, so ads, there was a little thing done, 2014. Redheads are more, at least in 2014, they appear more in popular commercials.
Stand out more.
Why? Because of the pain threshold?
There's fewer of them.
So according to this, there's a mob called Upstream Analysis. They did a report and they said 30% of TV commercials running during prime time in that year featured a redhead. Oh. And when you take out the ads that didn't have people in them, which would make sense, like here's a bunch of cars, none of them are redheads.
Weird.
I know, right? Whoa.
I think the main guy in Cars was a redhead.
The main guy?
Yeah, like he was a red car, so that counts as a redheaded car. Once a car is talking, the color of the car is the color of the hair. Or is it the color of the skin?
I'm not getting into that.
Is the trim, which bit is the hair?
The trim?
Like if you're watching
Are
Cars,
you sure you want to talk about people's trim?
Yeah, like the colors of the bumpers. And
cars have trim?
Yeah, cars definitely have a trim.
In the same way?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing with your car? I saw you waxing it earlier. So 33% when you take people out. So basically a third of ads. And at one point, CBS had a redhead featured prominently every 106 seconds.
Jesus, why are we counting this?
Why wouldn't you? Science. And it was women more than men. Twice as many of them were women than men. And so the speculation is, I love this one, they're probably there because they're super photogenic. And I'm like, well, that seems pretty big generalization. And the other one,
are you saying the models are super? I think
imagine that.
Models are often employed because they're super photogenic.
But then redhead models even more so. Okay. Obviously, I agree, but they may not.
Yeah, right.
Another one that says, it's probably because seeing the color red has positive effects on our body. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's also a warning and an alert. Anyway, here's the real shock. There's sexism in this. Did you know that?
Are you saying that bigotry can cut in multiple ways? Or you can be double bigotized?
You can be double bigoted. And yes, what a shock that one of them common ones is sexism. First up, redheaded women are thought of as being more volatile. We've talked about this, but men aren't.
Yeah.
And apparently they are more sexually inclined, and the quote runs, often stereotyped as sexy, passionate, sexually liberated, or promiscuous. Women only, not men.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I'd not heard that. Like, I'm like, really?
You've not heard that?
No.
No wonder you were fascinated by this article. You go, finally, I've never thought.
Who the fuck?
I've never thought any of these things.
It sounds like something I would have heard of.
Oh my God.
That's why I'm like, really? Okay, tell me more. I'll turn the page. So there's a book written by a woman called Jackie Collis Harvey, and the book's called Red, A History of the Redhead, and she is, spoiler alert, a redhead. She says, from time immemorial, it signified, the red hair, that as a woman I was both sluttish and dangerous, although if you could get me into bed, it, the colour of my hair, would promise, in the words of the sociologist Grant McCracken in Big Hair, sensual delights of extraordinary proportions. Sluttish and dangerous, let's get to it. Jonathan Swift satirises redheads in Gulliver's Travels. He's got A Voyage to the Country of the Houyhnhnms. He says that it is observed that the redhead of both sexes are more libidinous, mischievous than the rest, whom they much exceed in strength and activity. So they're strong and root rats. But science, it turns out, actually looked into this. So the journal Frontiers in Psychology 2022, a paper from people from Charles University in Prague. Mm-hmm. The paper is called
Why do you always do that?
Because to announce that I'm going to read something.
You don't have to. You can just read it. You can just read the name. you could just read the I can't read your writing. The paper is titled Redheaded Women Are More Sexually Active Than Other Women, but it is probably due to their suitors.
You forgot to clear your throat. No one knew you were reading something. So the aim, this is snippets. I'm not going to read the whole paper, obviously, but snippets from their abstract are worth it. The aim of the present case, the aim of the present case control study was to explore whether a connection between red hair color and sexual behavior really exists. So there you go, they're trying. Yeah. Using data from 110 women and 93 men. Of these, about a third of the women were redheaded and a fifth of the men.
You know, I'm not one to say that we must cure cancer as the only thing that science should do.
No, because also heart disease.
There's a lot of good science out there in a lot of good fields, but I am still...
And this is most of it.
No.
None of it?
No.
So,
did this need to be asked?
Well, it did, because we're fascinated.
No.
Redheadedness in women correlated with various traits related to sexual life, namely with higher sexual desire as measured by the revised socio-sexual orientation inventory, you know the one, with higher sexual activity, more sexual partners of the preferred gender over the past year, earlier initiation of sexual life, and higher sexual submissiveness. This is what they say. The results of this study suggest that redheaded women exhibit higher sexual desire, more activity, number of sexual partners, earlier initiation of sexual life, and higher blah, blah, blah. However, sexual desire does not seem to mediate the more liberated sexual behaviour in redheaded women in our data. What they're really saying is the results indirectly indicate that apparently more liberated sexual behaviour in redheaded women could be seen as the consequence of potential mates' frequent attempts to have sex with them.
So it's the others.
Yeah. They say, but look, given the lack of data regarding women's motives for having sex and men's motives for approaching redheaded women, we can't consider this to be...
What do you mean the lack of data? The lack of data in their study. Okay.
Yeah, or in general, apparently. I don't think there's a lot on it. And back to your question, who's doing this and why?
The motives for having sex?
No, doing the studies about the motives.
Well, okay.
So they say it should be borne in mind that sexual desire is not the only one possible motive for active initiation of sexual activities.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be, as they put it, legitimate candidates such as concentration of prenatal estrogen, faster life strategy, possibly induced by unfavourable conditions in childhood.
Okay.
So you've had a shit time, therefore you want to live faster
and die young,
leave a good-looking corpse. Or the redhead's own internal belief in stereotypes about themselves, which I think is the magic.
But these are quite different explanations. One's like chemical. It's like you got more estrogen. The other one is like some internal beliefs, and the other's like you had a rough child. Like these are random sorts of explanations.
When it comes to bet hedging, there's no hedge left.
Yeah.
I'm going to put us out of our misery. Wholesome verdict on this.
Okay.
I reckon there are many pros to being a ginger. That's my impression. And there are a couple of medical-related cons. We talked about those like sunburn and Tourette's and stuff. But it seems like most of the cons are based on superstition, outgrouping.
I'm surprised.
Imagine that. And the one about redheaded ladies being more promiscuous or sexually aggressive, et cetera, is beautifully circular.
Yeah.
So any argument you see is like they're more promiscuous and open to sex, therefore more people try and hit on, and therefore the numbers go up because more of them are being hit on, and round it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I stand by my modified version of my reaction to why we're so interested, or what is it, fascinated by redheads? Because redheads are rare and also babes. That's my summary. Redheads are babes.
Here's my summary.
You're babes, redheads, you're babes.
Just stop it.
We're babes.
Just stop it.
We're babes.
Just stop it.
Is it them or us?
Oh my God. Any other topics you want to talk about?
Tell me one of yours.
You know what? I don't want to do a biography of Albert Einstein, but I do want to know
Just his relationship with women?
equals MC squared. What was, it's one of the most famous formulae in history. Like you ask anyone to write down a science formula and people go, oh, E equals MC squared.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
That's another one. Yeah, okay. It's pretty famous. I'm just wondering what was the moment like when he realized this was actually a weird like definition of the universe sort of thing, and it comes down to be really simple. And then why did it stand out so much?
Wouldn't that break your brain? You kind of he's gone through this stuff. He's seen through space and time, like literally. He's got whiteboards covered in or blackboards covered in stuff, and then he's gone, I think it's these three terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just these three terms.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. It's insane. It's too simple.
What do you got?
What is life? And I don't mean spiritually, I mean literally the definition of life. Biologists kick the shit out of each other over this, as do others.
Well, I reckon we could solve it in 45 minutes.
Or more.
Yeah. I know life when I see it. I know death when I see it. So why don't they ask me?
They haven't?
Oh.
What else you got? Anything?
Well, this one was it's just a little story. It was, we've all heard for a while that reducing your animal produce intake is good for the climate.
Don't eat any more leather than you have to.
Yeah, reduce your leather, but reduce your meat, reduce your dairy, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a new study out.
Increase.
Well, no, it's not saying increase, but it's the meat. Dairy seems to be off the hook. Like dairy seems, despite all of these new milks, the nut milks and all those kind of things, dairy seems to be not terrible for the climate. Okay, there is an effect. There is an effect. It's not great,
sure,
but it seems like the way worse component for the climate of the dairy industry is the meat.
So ignoring that bit, which would you give up if you had to give up dairy or meat? I'd take meat. I think I'd keep dairy.
I'd probably keep dairy.
Yeah, because cheese. Come on, fucking cheese. I mean, we're being glared at by a vegan right now, but I tell you, man, far out, so good.
Any more?
I got one more. Are there any good cults? Surely there must be a good cult. And I'm asking, not at all out of personal interest or retirement planning, but like, are there any good cults?
Depends on your definition of good.
Does it?
Yeah. We are rapidly approaching by far the most dangerous moment in American history.
And therefore global.
In 100 years, 150 years in America, and therefore globally. Now, I was watching. Trump has pretty recently, been more explicit about being a dictator, and being more monarchical, like being a king. Like he is looking absolutely to throw out the Constitution.
Infinity%.
And there are many of his supporters who are like, no. Well, Trump should be immune. The president should be immune, should be allowed to do whatever.
No, not the president, President Trump.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I know there's a movie coming out pretty soon, which I think will be really interesting.
Is it called King Trump?
That's called Civil War.
That's already been done. That was a Marvel.
No, not the Marvel version. Oh. No, this is literally 2024 Civil War. What's it going to be like? And I'm interested in gathering some academic perspectives on this because I get the feeling
there's a lot of that.
I looked out. There are.
That's a lot of material.
There's in America, there's current state government trifectas. So a trifecta is when one party, Republicans or Democrats, controls the lower house, upper house, and the governor.
Okay.
So they've
state
got,
level.
Or at the state level, they've got all of those three. Yeah. And weirdly, it's huge. It's like, I think 40 out of the 52 are completely dominated by one side.
Really?
Of which I think about 32 might be Republican and 17 or so a Democrat, and then there's like 10 that are mixed. And there's a chunk of me that's thinking those Republican, how many of them will say, in this presidential election, whatever happened, we picked Trump. So Trump is our president, and I suspect there is a split very soon. And I wonder, what would it look like? What are the sorts of early stages? What are the how does this manifest? So I
think it's fascinating. There's a lot.
It's horrifying.
There's a lot.
It's horrifying, but yeah,
Can you do it in a one episode?
I want to find it. Can I do it? I don't know, but I want to find it. I want to find someone to talk to, because I think it's time. Like, clearly this movie will be big. Yeah. It's time to start being explicit, because what happens to Australia? Like what happens to the rest of the world when America goes civil war? Jesus.
Well, we lose a lot of TV and movies, which is a bummer.
And that is the number one thing, America. Don't do that to us.
Yeah,
Don't do that to us.
I like your popular cultures.